Hello, very basic Bible, 10-minute Bible, quick read through the history of Israel. The nation of Israel starts way back in I could say you could say Genesis, after whenever Jacob starts having kids. But when Moses brings Israel out of Egypt, God says, "Hey, I made you into a nation when I brought you out of Egypt." But of course, David secures the throne eventually. He makes King Saul, God makes King Saul king of Israel, and then he makes King David king of Israel. But here, when we say Israel, we mean King Solomon's son, King Solomon, David's son, committed sin. Because of that heinous sin, the nation of Israel was split in two. They called the southern part Judah, and they called the northern part Israel. So Israel, the northern nation. We're going to read the history of Israel, the northern nation, from its beginning until it is exiled in 2 Kings. Okay, guys, let's do this. I'm going to read this one kind of quick because I believe there's some long kind of stories about the prophet Elijah. He's a pretty cool guy. And so we're going to read through it kind of quick here. And start. Now Elijah the Tishbite from the Gilead settlers said to Ahab, "As the Lord God of Israel lives, in whose presence I stand, there will be no dew or rain these years except by my command." Ahab was the son of Omri. Ahab did much worse sin than anybody before him. Much worse. Then the word of the Lord came to him, "Leave here, turn eastward, and hide at the Wadi Cherith, where it enters the Jordan." He's talking, the him is Elijah. Okay. "You are to drink from the Wadi. I've commanded their ravens to provide for you there." So he proceeded to do what the Lord commanded. Elijah left and lived at the Wadi Cherith, where it enters to Jordan. The ravens kept bringing him bread and meat in the morning and in the evening, and he would drink from the Wadi. After a while, the Wadi dried up because there had been no rain in the land. Just like Elijah said, there'd be no rain. Then the word of the Lord came to Elijah, "Get up, go to Zarephath that belongs to Sidon and stay there. Look, I have commanded a woman who is a widow to provide for you there." So Elijah got up and went to Zarephath. When he arrived at the city gate, there was a widow gathering wood. Oh, the Lord has commanded the widow. But we can see that when God says commanded, he didn't speak to the widow. It's more like God planned and it will happen. So the word commanded here kind of seems that way. We'll see. You'll see what I mean. Elijah called to the widow and said, "Please bring me a little cup in water in a cup and let me drink." And she went to get it. As she went to get it, he called to her and said, "Please bring me a piece of bread in your hand." But she said, "As the Lord your God lives, I don't have anything baked, only a handful of flour in the jar and a bit of oil in the jug. Just now, I am gathering a couple of sticks in order to go prepare it for myself and my son so we can eat it and die." Then Elijah said to her, "Don't be afraid. Go and do as you have said. Build fire and sticks so you can eat food with your son. But first make me a small loaf from it and bring it out to me. Afterward, you may make some for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord God of Israel says: the flour jar will not become empty, and the oil jug will not run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the surface of the land." So she proceeded to do what according to the word of Elijah. Then the woman, Elijah, and her household ate for many days. The flour jar did not become empty, and the oil jug did not run dry, according to the word of the Lord he had spoken through Elijah. So maybe whenever he called to the widow was like, "Hey, you're the guy commanded." Or Elijah calls her and she does it for him. She does seem to know Elijah the prophet. It's a fun story. This just shows how awesome and loving God is through Elijah the prophet. Shows that he's a real prophet. After this, the son of the woman who owned the house became ill. His illness got worse until he stopped breathing. She said to Elijah, "Man of God, what do you have against me? Have you come to call attention to my iniquity so that my son is put to death?" But Elijah said to her, "Give me your son." So he took the son from her arms, brought him up to the upstairs room where he was staying, and laid him on his own bed. Then Elijah cried out to the Lord and said, Lord, my God, have you also brought this tragedy on the widow I am staying with by killing her son? Then he stretched himself out over the boy 3 times. He cried out to the Lord and said, Lord, my God, please let this boy's life come to life into him again. So the Lord listened to Elijah, and the boy's life came in him again, and he lived. Crazy. Elijah takes the dude upstairs and lays him on Elijah's bed. Elijah cries to God, lays down with him 3 times, cries out to the Lord, then God raises him to life. Man. Then Elijah took the boy, brought him down from the upstairs room into the house, and gave him to his mother. Elijah said, look, your son is alive. Then the woman said to Elijah, now I know that you are a man of God, and the Lord's word from your mouth is true. She didn't know it from the flour oil jug, but she knew this. Of course, the oil in the flour jug could have been, oh, we've had oil and flour for a week. Then my son died. Then her son's raised to life. I'd probably continue having oil and flour, being able to get bread. Okay. After a long time, the word of the Lord came to Elijah in the 3rd year. Go and present yourself to Ahab. I will send rain on the surface of the land. Good. So Elijah went to present himself to Ahab. The famine was severe in Samaria. Excuse me. Ahab called for Obadiah. There is a book in the Bible called Obadiah, but this might or might not be the same Obadiah. Ahab called for Obadiah, who was in charge of the palace. Obadiah was a man who greatly feared the Lord and took 100 prophets and hid them, 50 men to a cave, and provided them with food and water when Jezebel slaughtered the Lord's prophets. Come on. Ahab married this chick Jezebel. She slaughtered the Lord's prophets. Ahab said to Obadiah, go throughout the land to every spring and to every wadi. Ahab said to Obadiah, go throughout the land to every spring and to every wadi. Perhaps we'll find grass so we can keep the horses and mules alive and not have to destroy any cattle. They then divided the land between them in order to cover it. Ahab went one way by himself, and Obadiah went the other way by himself. So Ahab the king is walking around looking. Man, you think he's ordered his servants to do it. While Obadiah was walking along the road, Elijah suddenly met him. When Obadiah recognized him, he fell face down and said, is it you, my lord Elijah? It is I, he replied. Go tell your lord, Ahab, Elijah is here. But Obadiah said, what sin have I committed that you are handing your servant over to Ahab to put me to death? As the Lord your God lives, there is no nation or kingdom where my Lord has not sent someone to search for you. When they said, he is not here, he made that kingdom or nation swear that they had not found you. Now you say, go tell your Lord Elijah is here. But when I leave you, the Spirit of the Lord may carry you off to some place I don't know. Then when I go report to Ahab and he doesn't find you, because they would search the kingdoms for him and they couldn't find Ahab up here, Ahab would say, swear that he is not there. Okay, so now Obadiah is afraid God's going to carry Elijah away. Elijah's not going to be found, and I, your go tell you, but when I leave you, then I will go report to Ahab, and when he doesn't find you, he'll kill me. But look, I, your servant, have feared the Lord from my youth. Wasn't it reported to my Lord what I did when Jezebel slaughtered the Lord's prophets? So they're using the word Lord here, different ways. Lord for Elijah, Lord for Ahab, Lord for God. Yeah, it gets confusing, I admit. Earlier, it kept saying the man of God, the son of God, the son of a prophet, the old prophet, the man of the prophet, the old man of the prophet, the old man of God. And it was like, wait, which one's it talking about? The Old Testament's confusing that way sometimes. Wasn't it reported to Elijah what I did when Jezebel slaughtered the Lord's prophets? I hid 100 of them of the prophets of the Lord, 50 men to a cave, and I provided them with food and water. But now you say, go tell your Lord, Elijah is here. Ahab will kill me. Then Elijah said, as the Lord of armies lives, in whose presence I stand today, I will present myself to Ahab. So don't worry, Obadiah. You're not going to go tell Elijah. You're not going to go tell Ahab, hey, I found Elijah. And then I will disappear. Don't worry. I'm not going to disappear. I will be there. So don't worry. You're not going to die. Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him. Then Ahab went to meet Elijah. When Ahab saw Elijah, Ahab said to him, is that you, the one ruining Israel? Because Elijah said there's not going to be any rain. There's no rain. Israel is being ruined. Elijah replied, I have not ruined Israel, but you and your father's family have, because you have abandoned the Lord's commands and followed the Baals. Now summon all Israel to meet me at Mount Carmel, along with the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah who eat at Jezebel's table. Okay. So Ahab summoned all the Israelites and gathered them, the prophets, at Mount Carmel. Then Elijah approached and all the people and said, because all Israel is there, he approached all the people and said, how long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal, follow him. But the people didn't answer him a word, probably scared of Ahab. Then Elijah said to the people, I am the only remaining prophet of the Lord, but Baal's prophets are 450 men. Let 2 bulls be given to us. They are to choose 1 bull for themselves, cut it in pieces. Right in the middle of the story. Man, look at that. Craziness. Can you guys believe this? Right in the middle of this story. Okay, guys, you'll just have to come back to the next very basic Bible quick read. Remember, if you want a detailed, longer, verse by verse, scholarly teaching, scroll down, look in the show notes just above the YouTube comments, and you'll find links to teachings you can go to. You can look this up, and hey, maybe you can go ahead and see what's ahead, because now I've left you on a cliffhanger. Until then, we will see you in the next very basic Bible. God bless everyone.